Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 6 video. There was so much stuff that happened, so many Easter eggs and references going all the way back to the prequel movies, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. We're doing a Disney Plus membership giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and post your favorite Easter egg from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet, obviously, because there's so much to talk about. I'm going to number this a little bit differently, just starting at the beginning of the episode. The title of the episode is The Tragedy, referencing Mando losing Grogu to Moff Gideon and losing the Razor Crest. When I first saw the title of the episode, I actually wondered which tragedy they were trying to reference from the canon, because there are so many tragedies in Star Wars that you could point to. There's Order 66, there's Emperor Palpatine going on about Darth Plagueis. Cue up the clip, Have I Ever Told You About the Tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? The episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez, of all people. He was actually probably one of the biggest names that they got to direct episodes this season. It's the shortest episode of Season 2 so far as well. It's just a little over 30 minutes long. And a lot of people, when they heard this earlier this week, thought that it would be a filler episode, but it totally was not a filler episode at all. I think one of the reasons why they had Robert Rodriguez direct this episode is because it was so action heavy and because he's so good at working on low budgets. Most of the movies he works on are relatively low budget compared to traditional big action movies. We got so many cool reveals and references to the prequel movies with Boba Fett and Jango Fett. They explained how they're connected to the Mandalorians historically and the true origin of Boba Fett's green Beskar armor, which is a bit of a retcon because originally his armor was supposed to be Durasteel. And not only did they bring Temuera Morrison back as Boba Fett, and he actually spoke, he had dialogue as Boba Fett, they also brought Ming-Na back from Season 1 as well, sort of answering what happened after that Episode 5 post-credit scene. I feel like most of people's theories were correct because we did think that was Boba Fett coming to her body, but we just didn't know what he was doing when he came to her body. The episode starts with Mando taking Grogu to the planet Tython. I did a video a while ago about the history and the lore surrounding this planet. This is them going back to the true origins of the Jedi. Originally, the order that preceded the Jedi Order that we think of when we think of the Jedi Order, like Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker belonged to the Jedi Order. The order that preceded that more than 25,000 years ago was the Jedi. It's spelled a little bit differently. They actually studied 3 different schools of the Force: the light, the dark, and the balance between them, the Ashla, the Bogan, and the Bendu. If you remember the Bendu from Star Wars Rebels, which is sort of like a lion turtle in the Star Wars universe for all you Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. Dave Filoni, obviously the showrunner from Rebels, also worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original Avatar: The Last Airbender series. So the Bendu was sort of like his version of a lion turtle in the Star Wars canon. But the whole idea with those original Force practitioners is that they practice both the light sides and the dark sides of the Force, making them a little bit more powerful than you would think a traditional Jedi or traditional Sith or dark side Force user would be. But they follow up the scene with Mando playing with the control knob, getting Grogu to use the Force a couple more times. They played for a little bit of comedy with him saying Grogu's name out loud, and Grogu just responds a little more quickly. And because Ahsoka Tano told him about all the Jedi training that he received, he knows he's much more learned. He speaks to him more like an adult now than a tiny little kid. He uses that weird curse word again, dank ferric. He's used that several times in the series, and they've never really told us exactly what it means, but it's sort of like the Star Wars version of dropping an F-bomb. They start playing some sad music when Mando starts talking to Grogu about eventually having to part ways. Look, kid, you're gonna have to stay with these Jedi. They're gonna teach you. I don't know enough to teach you. You're way too powerful for that. He hilariously refers to Ahsoka Tano as the nice lady. The special rock that he's taking Grogu to that's very powerful in the Force actually looks like a natural focusing array just built out of the landscape, meant to focus all the Force energy of the planet. They have a bit of a funny moment with Mando just trying to figure out how to turn it on and get him to do what he's supposed to do. But he turns around a couple times, and when he comes back, Grogu has gone full Master Yoda, meditating in the Force, and there's this giant beam of Force energy projecting out into the galaxy. So you have to remember that this is a beacon that's reaching out to the entire galaxy, which is enormous. So that is how powerful it is, and that's why Mando isn't able to penetrate it when he tries to go grab Grogu through it a couple different times. He tries 3 different times in the episode. But just as he begins, Boba Fett's Slave One ship enters in the background, and obviously if you've even seen a little bit of Star Wars, you instantly know that that's his ship. So I love the way they play the tension in the early part of the episode, because Boba Fett has typically been portrayed as a villain, even though technically he's not a villain. He's really just a bounty hunter, so he's true neutral. He's neither bad nor good, and they actually kind of hold true to that during the episode. He tells Mando that he's been tracking him this whole time, and they have the gunslinger standoff moment. He's only there for his armor, though. He doesn't even react when Mando starts referencing the child. Are you here for the kid? It's totally weird hearing Temuera Morrison speak without the helmet on. Now, if you've gone back and you've watched the Star Wars movies probably a billion times, they've actually retconned his voice into Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back, so you've actually heard him speak as Boba Fett a couple times before, but never with the mask off, and he just looks raw from being in the Sarlacc pit. He references Jango Fett, saying that it belonged to his father before him. It takes a while during the episode for them to get across that hump. Eventually, Mando does come around on it. There's a really cool reference to the three-way gunslinger standoff from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. They've parodied it on a billion other television shows. So if you've ever seen a reference to a three-way Mexican standoff, that's what it's referencing. But you have Fennec Shand, who steps in and says, "Oh, good to see you again, Mando," and reveals that Boba Fett rescued her, and that's why she's in his service now. She doesn't seem upset about it, she just seems like she's happy to be alive, and it's really only been about a year since that episode, so she hasn't been working with Boba Fett for that long. But then she reveals that she's gone full Darth Vader with a whole bunch of cybernetic parts to keep her alive. When Mando questions him about taking the creed, the code of the Mandalorians, even the hardcore Mandalorians from Death Watch that Mando comes from, Boba Fett says he swears allegiance to no one but himself. Then he says sometimes fate steps in to rescue the wretched. Obviously he's talking about Fennec Shand because he stepped in to rescue her. But he also says that he was left on the sands of Tatooine to die as well, referencing the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi. Now, he doesn't explain exactly how he escaped. I talked a little bit about this during episode 1 when they revealed that he had survived in the first place. There was this whole backstory they gave us during the episode about how the Krayt Dragons are the natural predators of the Sarlaccs around Tatooine, so it's likely that the Krayt Dragon that they killed had previously killed the Sarlacc that had eaten Boba Fett, and the chaos of that allowed him to escape. They set up the big twist for the end of the episode with Boba Fett teaming up with Mando when he says he'll guarantee his and Grogu's safety in exchange for his family's armor. Fennec Shand also reminds Mando that the bounty on Grogu has risen significantly since Season 1, so I was kind of expecting an even bigger twist with Boba Fett's character. He was surprisingly honorable in the episode from what my expectations were. But then when you see everyone's reactions when the stormtroopers show up, you actually get a lot of answers about what's really going on with Boba Fett. No, he actually really is here just to get his armor. He's not working with Moff Gideon. These ships that they're traveling in are just standard Imperial troop transports from the Imperial era of the original trilogy of movies. As Mando tries and fails to go back and grab Grogu through the Force barrier a couple more times and fails each time, just getting repelled, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand start taking out the stormtroopers one by one. They give them each a couple really badass moments, so you get to see Boba Fett without his armor using the gaffy stick from episode 1. That's the tool that the Tusken Raiders used to clean the Bantha's teeth, but it's also used as a weapon as well. A very good weapon at that. He uses to smash the stormtrooper's armor pretty easily. I love the way it dashes too. I don't think we've seen scenes like this in Star Wars before. It's just a way to show you how badass Boba Fett is, even though this is a much older version of Boba Fett who's not wearing his armor, so he doesn't have any of his traditional tools or weapons. Temuera Morrison did a great job with the action scenes. It feels like he did a lot of this himself too, and later, when it was him in the armor, it was actually him wearing the armor, not a stunt person. I love the way they foreshadow during the episode too, because after he takes out a couple of them, he's near the Razor Crest and you see the doors open and you know exactly what's going to happen next. They cut away to Fennec Shand to give her some creative kills, but just as Mando comes to team up with her and start shielding her with his Beskar armor, you get the big Boba Fett reveal as he jetpacks in his armor and quickly takes out all the other stormtroopers with a bunch of different weapons that he has all over his armor. So it's them sort of fulfilling on the promise that we were given during the original trilogy when we were all younger watching these movies, seeing Boba Fett and him being hyped up as this super badass bounty hunter, but never really seeing him get that many badass scenes. So it's sort of them redeeming his character after being taken out so hilariously in Return of the Jedi. Then, of course, we were all just waiting for him to use that rocket launcher, so of course the stormtroopers take off in the dropships again to go back to the cruiser, but he uses the rocket launcher and takes them both out, 2 with 1 shot. I love that funny reveal too when Mando compliments him like, "Oh, that was amazing," and he says, "Oh, I was actually aiming for the other one." Then, as they've done several times this season, they sort of take back that awesome moment, yank the rug out from under us by blowing up the Razor Crest. Moff Gideon lands an instant hit, but everybody press F in the chat to pay respects to the Razor Crest. Are you now kind of wondering what they're going to do for his ship during Season 3 when we get to that? Because they've been selling the Razor Crest as a toy, so either they're going to give him a brand new ship or a brand new version of the Razor Crest. I don't know how they're going to do that though, because that thing was blown to atoms. Like, there's almost nothing of it that's left. It's also kind of hilarious that as Mando rushes back to try and grab Grogu, the beacon's still up so he can't penetrate the barrier again, but just as he runs off, the barrier lowers, like just as he turns away, boom, he's done. And despite the way the episode ended, you have to remember that Grogu was successful in communicating to the rest of the galaxy, reaching out to anyone who's powerful enough in the Force to detect his signal. Mission accomplished, so literally anyone, good or bad, Jedi, Sith, Dark Force users, even the Night Sisters who are relatively powerful in the Force, anyone who could detect his signal could wind up showing up by the season finale or in Season 3 and future seasons. It's a way for them to introduce a whole bunch of new characters potentially in the future, because it's no one character that's going to show up. A number of different people probably detected that beacon in the Force and will show up over the course of a couple seasons. Either everyone's pulling for Sam Jackson to show up as Mace Windu or Sebastian Stan as a new version of Luke Skywalker. There are so many different Jedi that could show up from Legends canon. Even Mara Jade, of all people, could show up as well. If they're pulling so many characters from deep cuts, and we know that Grand Admiral Thrawn is coming soon too. Visually, the Dark Troopers look like a cross between the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 Dark Troopers from the Dark Forces video game. If you've never played that, it's one of the most amazing original 90s Star Wars games. It's a super deep cut. But just explaining what they are, because they do kind of look like droids. They're basically droid-human hybrids. It's basically like organic parts from all the cloning experiments that we've seen Moff Gideon doing, combined with droid bodies, just to make them super soldiers, so to speak. And remember, they just grabbed Grogu and took off. We haven't actually seen them for real in action yet, which would probably be something for the finale. Mando picks through the bones of what's left of the Razor Crest and fishes the Beskar spear out, which is obviously unharmed because it's Beskar, and Grogu's little toy that he was playing with, the control knob from the Razor Crest. Then they sort of continue that idea, this Boba Fett redemption that they've been doing through the Mandalorian series, when he says that he's going to help Mando out because their deal is not complete. You said that you give the armor back, and in exchange, we would keep you and Grogu safe, and he's not safe yet, so they're going to help him take Grogu back from Moff Gideon. Look at Boba Fett being all honorable. I was so surprised by this twist in the episode. I was not expecting this at all. Then as Boba Fett notices the Beskar spear, he shows Mando his personal chain code identifier embedded in the green Beskar armor. It's like an ID stamp with the family history written in Mandalorian code, telling Mando he really is Boba Fett and showing him the identifier for his father, Jango Fett, and Mando sees that it identifies Jango Fett as a foundling just like him, saying that he fought in the Mandalorian Civil Wars. So Boba Fett flies them back to Navarro in the Slave One so that they can get Cara Dune's help, because Mando wants to break Bill Burr's character from Season 1 out of prison because he's a former Imperial sharpshooter to help them track down Moff Gideon's cruiser. But then probably one of the best scenes from the episode, most WTF scenes as well, is we go back to Moff Gideon's cruiser as it's traveling through hyperspace, and as he's traveling through the hallway, I love the way that they reveal this too. It's kind of a slow reveal because you hear stormtroopers groaning and screaming in the background, and when they reveal what's happening, you see Grogu going full Darth Vader, choking them, crushing their throats, throwing them all over the ship using the Force. He is pissed off, but even better, Moff Gideon seems so happy about this. He just seems so pleased with himself watching Grogu fall to the dark side. Like, he kind of wants this. He even stops his other stormtroopers from intervening and stopping Grogu. Like, no, let him wear himself out killing these other men of ours. It's also a clever way to remind you that Moff Gideon doesn't really care about any of his underlings. They're really just tools for him to use. Then after Grogu finishes smashing the hell out of the stormtroopers, he collapses in exhaustion and Moff Gideon starts taunting him with the Darksaber. He asks if he remembers the lightsabers of the Jedi that he trained with at the Jedi Temple, the Jedi Masters on Coruscant. Grogu tries to reach out with the Force to steal it from him to snatch the Darksaber from his hand, but he's too tired. Moff Gideon actually makes a really clever reference that seems kind of like foreshadowing. He says, "You might wind up putting someone's eye out. You're not ready to play with such things." So when I say foreshadowing, it just feels like they're going to pay that off either in the finale or in a future episode where Grogu really does wind up taking Moff Gideon's eye out or someone else's eye out with the Darksaber. They take Grogu out with the same stun gun that they took Princess Leia out with in A New Hope, because this whole prison scene with Grogu is meant to reference the scene of Darth Vader interrogating Princess Leia on the Death Star. Remember, Moff Gideon's character is sort of designed visually to reference Darth Vader. He wears the same black space cape, same black armor, he wields a lightsaber just like Darth Vader, slightly different kind of lightsaber, but the Darksaber is still a lightsaber. And even though the way they leave him there all passed out is meant to be this really WTF ending cliffhanger to the episode, I laughed a little bit when he said shackle him and they put the tiniest little shackles on him that you've ever seen in your entire life. If you keep watching the end credits though with all the concept art, it always looks fantastic. I always love the concept art for each of the episodes, but you actually notice that they have some really cool interior shots of the Slave One if you haven't seen it before. But if you spotted any really big Easter eggs or references during the episode that I didn't mention during the video, just write them below in the comments. And what'll happen is I'll do a couple more bonus videos this week for some of the bigger Easter eggs. Leave all your requests in the comments too. And obviously my Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 7 video will post next Friday just like normal. While you wait for everything, click here to learn about all the Jedi and Sith characters who survived Order 66 and could show up to answer Grogu's call in the Force on the Mandalorian series. And click here for my full Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 5 Ahsoka Tano video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. This is the way.